Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're new here or if you missed it, a couple of months ago I received a film camera as a gift. Really exciting to me to get this and give it a shot. I started in film. That's where I began photography. And since my return to digital photography, I started, back in the early 2000s with digital photography, and then moving through the 2000s, just kind of like enjoying photography, but not really doing much with it. After the pandemic, I started really taking photography more seriously. And one of the goals of doing film is I want to see if the progress I feel I've made with my digital cameras is real or not. Is it me doing the work, or is it my cameras and technology doing the work? I wanted to start out with two of my favorite film recipes, UltraMax 400 for color, and I used the Ilford HP5 400 for black and whites. So those were actually the two recipes that I just found myself gravitating towards. And when I got a film camera, I wanted to, give these a try. So my very first roll of film, in that last video, I said I knew my roll was going to be garbage. I just didn't know I meant that literally. It was a beautiful morning. I had gone out, I'd taken 36 images. I got to the store, I'm looking at the camera and I figure, okay, I got this. Pull up the little pin and I start to rewind it, and I notice some ratcheting noises, and then I feel the film give way, it tore, and I realized I had messed up. And when I opened up the back, there was film in there. It was torn, and I ended up just throwing it away. The little release button, and anyone who's done film photography probably already knew what I did wrong. And yes, I did it wrong. I did not press this button before I started to rewind. So what I did was I bought another roll of film, and I went out and I just walked around the area to take some photos, because I really did want it to be a test. The camera works. I got my exposure right. One of the reasons I gravitate toward this photo here is because you can see that in the darks, nothing's really crushed. The dark is okay. It's the highlights aren't blown out, any of that. So from a just pure photography standpoint, this and this image are test successful. The camera works, the lens works, I'm able to get focus. All of those things that I was trying to test out, I tested them, they worked. After that experiment, I got another roll of HP5 and I went out, and in my roll of 33 images, I got back 9 that I liked. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like this picture of my dog, I took this the way I would take any photo, the way I would take a photo with my Fujifilm right now. I just pointed at something I found interesting and I took a photo of it. That's why I'm excited about this. I didn't realize I was even in the frame until after the fact. Somebody in social media noted that I should have framed myself in the glass better. And I was like, I didn't know I was in the shot. I was just taking a picture of my dog. These photos were very exciting to get back. In fact, some of these photos I did a little experiment with digital, and I'll get back to that later in the video. So the next roll of film that I did was UltraMax 400. I was real excited about this because that's probably my favorite Fujifilm recipe. I really like the contrast look of it. I like the deep colors. Of the 30 I got back, there were 6 that I thought were decent. And one of the ones that I really was drawn to almost immediately was this store that I drove through. It's in a mountain town called Fairplay, Colorado. And they sell these like yard tchotchkes. The contrast and color in this photo is so great, and I didn't do anything to this photo. There is not a single thing set in my Lightroom. This is how it looks right out of the film, and that's fantastic. That was like, it made my heart sing. But speaking of making my heart sing, a couple of months ago, it was between winter and spring, I went up into the mountains. I just wanted to get some mountain photography. And I came home with these images that, even though they stunk from composition standpoint and everything, there was something in them that really reminded me of old pictures that I had in photo albums my parents had of us going into the Rockies. There was something about these that were very nostalgic. So I started playing around with setting, and I created a preset at the time, and I ended up saving it, and I called it Mountain Nostalgia. When I apply Mountain Nostalgia, you can see immediately that I take away some of that contrast. I've added a lot of grain. I pulled back some of those blues. I added some yellow, so it has more of a vintage tone to it. And I bring that up because in UltraMax, when I got these photos back, the tchotchkes photo was great, but it was in these next images that I just kind of was blown away, because this is the photo I got back. I mean, it literally pulled my heartstrings. So I saw these photos and I was very, very happy. So in here, I see literal nostalgia. Like, this isn't an idea I'm going for. This is actually a memory I have. After that, I did another roll of HP5. This time I was using a 28mm lens instead. This particular roll is where I started to really unshackle myself. Instead of using the Spotmeter, and I have a meter on my phone that I bought, I got to a point where I didn't want to keep pulling that out and like measuring the light. Of my 37, there were 11 that I liked. And now I'm not saying that any of these are portfolio pieces. I'm just saying these are 11 that I liked. But yeah, these all came out really well. And again, they're similar to what I was saying before about how I like to shoot. So most of these, I winged it. I'm at f8, it's pretty bright. I'll do 1000, shutter speed 1000. I'm already at 400. My ISO is set at 400. I set it to the film stock. But yeah, these were all off the cuff, on a whim. I like this photo because it's a photo I would take with my Fujifilm camera, taking reflection across the street, but also into the store itself to see the objects in the store, trying to line up things like the leg of the table with the edge of this building. That's the kind of thing I try to do. Then I went into another roll of UltraMax. In a roll of 35, I have 12 that I thought came out okay. There is one in here, and that's this one. This may not be a portfolio piece, but this is by far my favorite photo I've taken with film so far. I love this photo. I love the starburst. I love the soft, gentle nature of the light going into the sun. It does not look blown out to me, even though it is absolutely blown out. That red ring is so great. It's so great. Everything about this is just like encapsulates what I'm always after anyway. This is that image. Some of these other images that I've taken, I was playing around with UltraMax and color. So this was the 4th of July in a neighborhood. All of these are just, me trying to play around with light, cloud cover. Am I getting shadow detail? It's all just very exciting to me. Something I should point out is there is like, I have no other way to describe it other than there's a call. There is a call that this camera has to me that I want to open up the back and I want to take film and load it in here and I want to go shoot with it. The problem is that call is very limited. While the camera calls to me to load it, I'm actually, I'm only interested for about 10 to 15 frames. And after that, I'm essentially trying to kill the roll. Like I'm not putting as much effort into the last part of the roll. So the weird thing is, you would think, especially with digital, going to a location, like if I go downtown Denver and I want to take photos, I can take 36 photos pretty easily and come home with 36, 50. But when I take out my film camera, I'm not the same way. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I'm being more intentional or if there's something about shooting film that just degrades over time as far as satisfaction to doing it. So I just find that interesting. I want to get a smaller roll. Like maybe I want to get a roll of 24 rather than 36. But the problem is I don't think that would actually save me any money in the development time, which is a good segue into some of the downsides. And some of the downsides are the cost. I mean, the cost, you can't ignore the cost. Over time, the cost will be much more expensive than a digital. Not only are the rolls of film themselves a little pricey. But then I get the negatives developed, so that has a cost, and then I get that the negatives scanned, and so that has a cost. I have no interest in developing my own film. I did start in film. I did do darkroom work, and I hated that part. I hated the darkroom. I hated the smell of the chemicals. In fact, that's one of the reasons I gave up on photography in high school, was I just didn't want to do a darkroom. That cost is always going to be there. I'm always going to pay to get my negatives developed. Scanning my own, I might be able to do that. Like, I might invest in a light tray. Right now, I don't have a macro lens for my Fujifilm cameras, so I do have a macro lens on my very capable iPhone, and I have seen phone stands. I don't know, let me know in the comments if you've had any success with phone scanning. That might be something I'll try in the future. Another, I would say, more of annoyance is there's no EXIF data. So if I do want EXIF data, like if I want to share online, like on Glass or anything like that, I have to, do some work ahead of time. I did find an app for my Mac called Meta Image. It's been pretty good for batch processing. I can, give my camera model, my lens I took, all of that stuff I can enter in just a very simple batch, and then I take those batched files and I bring them into Lightroom. So now this brings me to comparing digital and film. And the reason I wanted to do this was mostly because I just wanted to see what I was working with. I also wanted to compare the film to the film recipe, but unfortunately I made a pretty bad error with my recipes, so all my JPEGs are kind of messed up. So what I had to do was adjust my raw images to match the recipe as best I could in Lightroom. Doing it after the fact is not the same as doing it in camera. There is definitely some differences, but I tried the best I could. The other thing I did, and I did this right, was for this example, I got high res scans, so it cost more, but the scans are really high res, and they're actually about the same size as my 40 megapixel raw files out of my Fujifilm. Without telling you which one is which, I guess I just want to show you this image, this side-by-side comparison of these two images, so you can see for yourself that I don't feel like this is worth arguing about. I don't feel like saying one is better than the other is necessary. They're images, and I find the whole thing absurd. I really do. If I just upset you, I'm sorry, but that whole argument is utterly ridiculous. I hope all of you who are arguing it will one day come to a point where you're like, does it matter? Because it doesn't. It doesn't matter. I've looked at these photos so much, and I cannot with any clarity say that one is better than the other. I don't care. They both produce great images. So I think it's an argument not worth having. This is the only image, this one right here, where I can honestly say that there is a noticeable difference between the film and the digital file. But it's not noticeable enough for me to care. Like, I think they're both great. They're fine. All of these are tests. Nothing is supposed to knock your doors off. These images all have this similarity that I think are fine. They're great. That's the best thing that I got from this, is I know I can take this film camera and I can shoot the way I shoot with my Fujifilm camera, and I'm very comfortable with the results. So that's very exciting to me. In fact, I would say successful test. So that leads me into the sort of wrap here. What am I going to do going forward? I'm enjoying this right now. I like taking it with me when I take my Fujifilm out. So I don't mind taking the two cameras, and I shoot different things for different reasons. I only did that one roll as a comparison. I haven't done that again. I don't see the need to. Some things I take a shot with my film camera, and some things I take a shot with my digital camera. I just play it by ear, kind of like the way I shoot in general. So I'm not really interested in making any declarations about switching to film or anything like that. Part of the process for me is really just being better at this. That's why I wanted to do it. I'm definitely not doing this to appease any kind of algorithm or anything. In fact, algorithmically speaking, my Pentax video did very poor. You know, I don't think a ton of people are interested in film photography. I know that there is definitely a niche, but it's not huge. It's not mass market appeal. So this isn't for an algorithm. This isn't to be, you know, accepted by my peers. I'm mostly doing this because I really was curious. Do I have the skill set or not? And as long as I'm enjoying it, I'll keep doing it. And that's, I guess, the biggest takeaway. That's it for me. This one's been long because I've had to take it 3 times because my screen recording kept messing up, but hopefully I got it on this one. If you liked it, please remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate it when you do. It really helps me stay motivated to keep going. As always, I thank you so much for watching this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.